Hello everybody and a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us for this, our first ever Goodwood Road and Racing podcast. I'm Rob Widdows and with me today are three stars of the sport, and they're all house captains at our forthcoming members meeting on March the 19th and 20th. They're all winners too, of course. On my left here, Jochen Mass. At the end, Emanuele Pirro, and on my right here, Anthony Reid. All of them will be house captains at our members meeting, and so it'll be up to them to encourage all of you who are coming to our event to get as many points for them as possible. And if they win on the track, they get points too. We'll explain all that a bit more in a minute. Anyway, just to remind you, Jochen Mass won Le Mans, a Le Mans winner, and Formula One driver, of course, famously with McLaren. Emanuele Pirro, 5 times a Le Mans winner. Amazing. Also a Formula One driver. And at the members' meeting, he's sharing a BMW with Gerhard Berger. We're all rather looking forward to that, I must say. And Anthony Reid, Japanese Formula 3 champion in 92.
Yes.
92, yes. And a serial winner in touring cars, 15 wins. And believe it or not, Anthony lost the championship twice at the last race. How cruel is that? Anyway. Jochen, let's start with you. Now, you're a house captain at the members' meeting.
Thanks, Rob.
Just to let you, but you're not wearing your blazer, which Anthony is, I note. Tell us a bit about what your responsibility is.
My responsibility is pretty undefined. Basically, what we do is we have these groups on our house captains' logos and names. So my house is Darnley, which of course is great. And it's something, you know, which creates sort of a feeling of belonging to a certain group, which is very good. Yep. And it's pretty competitive. The people are competitive, you know. We don't have to instill much of that in them. They're ready. When they come here, they're all geared up. Yep. And, you know, our responsibility is basically to be sort of a sensible leader of this sort of house. And I really liked it. I felt very flattered when I was invited to do that. And I think it's a wonderful system, really, to give people more on the weekend than just sort of a loose competition between the cars and so on. So now we have houses, 4 of them, which is great. And that makes it pretty exciting. And of course, Anthony won it already, so much to our misgivings. But no, it's very good. And I think we'll have good competition again this year.
Anthony, how have you managed to be the winning house captain every single time? What is the secret?
Well, of course, this will be the 3rd edition of the members' meeting. I mean, I think what's great about the whole weekend is it's an event, it's a meeting for the members, the Goodwood Road Racing Club members. Not only just the people that are driving on the circuit, but also their family, their friends, the children. Because of all these sort of field sport activities around the site over the weekend, quintessentially British activities.
Ferret racing, for example.
Yes, croquet and stuff like that. And it's an opportunity. You know, at a normal race meeting, wives and children get bored.
Yes.
They don't get bored at this event. They really get involved, and I think that's what's special about this occasion. And it's just great. You know, to see, you know, having these 4 houses, and I'm captain of Methuen, and we've won twice, but we're shooting for a hat-trick. I think that just adds a new dimension to the whole weekend, and it's just going to be great fun. Well, we were lucky to win the last couple of times, but, you know, I can see from Emanuele, he doesn't like to be beaten.
No, he does not.
So they're going to be trying really hard, I can tell you.
Emanuele, do you understand what we're trying to do here? Because I mean, this is a very British thing. It's quite an old-fashioned British tradition, the house captains.
Well, but because of that, in the very old days, I decided to put my 2 children in the British school in Italy. So I was able to understand what the meaning of the house at school was. So this was a very, how to say, lungimirant thought which helped me to understand the system here. But I want to share what Jochen said. I also feel really, really proud. We've been coming to Goodwood ever since before even Lord March was born, more or less. No, I'm just kidding. So we really have a very strong sense of belonging,
Yep.
and being house captain is a very good thing. And the thing is developing more and more, because on the first edition, not so many people really, I talk about the spectators and the people who came, were aware of the system, and there was not so much of a sense of belonging like now, what Jochen said. Now more and more, because also thanks to our very, how to say, colorful outfit, people can spot us, and the whole thing about it is to have a good sense of belonging, and you walk around and you meet people who belong to your house, and you kind of laugh,
Sure.
and you cheer up,
Sure.
and for me, the reason why Anthony won twice is a very good lobbying activities in the days before the race. I would like to know what he's doing, but I think he's how to say, incentivized a lot of people to score points.
He has a lot more support in the lower house than we have. No, but what I found over the time now, how successful this idea is when people somewhere in the world, in the States or on the continent, they talk to you and say, "Hey, I'm in your house. I think it's fabulous." You know, it's not just an idea. People really feel. I said, "Great, you are wonderful." I said, "This time we go for it." They said, "Yeah, you bet we do," and so on. So that's very nice. Yeah.
It's also a whole new thing for motor racing in the 21st century. The fans are actually meeting and talking to the drivers. I mean, this is wonderful. If only it could happen more often. Okay, I should have explained actually that we have 4 house captains. The 4th one is Andrew Jordan, the touring car driver, but he can't be here today. And he, in fact, is standing in for Nicolas Minassian, who can't be here this year. Got that? Okay. Right, let's talk a bit about you guys now. Jochen, you won Le Mans in a Sauber Mercedes, a great-looking car. Tell us a bit about that year, because to win Le Mans it's a big thing, isn't it?
It is a very big thing, of course, and with the Sauber squad coming in, really, with sort of a backdoor support for Mercedes in terms of engines and all that, it was, of course, a big responsibility. And, you know, in '88 we had trouble with the tires because we had too much downforce, and the tires were not up to this sort of amount of pressure we generated with the downforce on the cars. So we had to actually to get out of it. We couldn't do it. So we packed up again, and then we started in earnest in '89. And I did a lot of testing with the C9 at Clermont-Ferrand, which already indicates then what tires there were. I don't want to name them.
Great track.
It's not important. Yeah, it's a wonderful track. Not Clermont-Ferrand as such, no, sorry. It was at their own facility, circuit.
Oh, okay.
Big test circuit, wonderful, where they have a measuring device where you can drive over at ever-increasing speeds and then measure the downforce you have. And it was quite intriguing because you follow a wall at the end, which leads to this narrow gate. You know, when you arrive there at 350, it looks narrow. You know, but it's a funny color scheme on the right, which leads you practically into it. So it's anyway. So the car was very, very good. The team was very focused, and also, you know, it was nice. And of course, we were still doing it. Later became easier. That's why he won it 5 times. No, it was never easy. But we had to nurse the car a little more than later because we were heavy. You know, our weight was 1,000 kilos. What are the car's weights now in Le Mans?
Yeah, the weight is pretty much the same, but as you know,
but not 1,000 kilos.
Yeah, 900 and.
Yeah, it's quite different. Anyway, yeah.
Sorry to step over, but the big difference about driving and being a good driver in Le Mans is since in comparison to the old days is the way you have to drive, because now with first of all with the automatic shifting you can't brake an engine car with all the simulation. Basically cars don't brake, so Now what is required is to drive as fast as possible. I did Le Mans in '81, and also in Jochen's day, you had to have something more than being fast. You had to be fast, but also have a feeling for the mechanical, because the driving style could break the car, and this was an extra difficulties, on my opinion, that is no longer there. There was a quote of Andre Lotterer, who was, I think, replying to Alonso in Instagram just a week ago, because Alonso was saying about, I'm not sure if it was Alonso, but a top driver was saying about Formula One being a sprint race, and don't understand so much about endurance races. And the reply from Andre was great. He said, "Oh, endurance race is just even sprinter, and even stronger than Grand Prix racing." And this is about true.
It's 15 Grand Prix put together, at one race.
Yeah.
But the good example, talking about having to nurse the car a little bit, was when Michael Schumacher, who was undeniably very fast, and he drove the same car in 91 or 90.
91, I think. 91,
yeah. And he was going very quick, and I said to him, because we drove the same time in these two cars, and I said, "Michael, you're going a little too fast." He said, with sort of a semi-arrogant glance to the right where I stood, he said, "That seems fast to you, it's not fast for me." I said, "Thanks, but that's not the point." I said, "I know you're driving very fast, but you're loading the car a lot with sort of pressures and this and that, and you may develop problems if you continue in that pace." He said, "It's okay." At 5 o'clock in the morning, they had big problems with the wheels and with the wheel bearings and all that. And then he came along, and that was something which I appreciated from him. And he said, "Jochen, you were right. I was pushing the car too hard."
Wow.
I said, "See."
Wow.
So anyway, but no, Le Mans, you had to be a little bit, as Emanuele quite rightly said, the gear change was not this sort of just the double clutch PDK gearboxes. It was, you had to be conscientious about everything, the clutch generally, and so on.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge in a way to keep rolling fast without pushing too hard on the revs and changing too fast, going from one gear to the other without sort of little consideration for the material inside the box and things like that. So it was exciting.
Anthony, you've won a huge number of races with a roof over your head. This is what you're well known for. Does Le Mans appeal to you?
Yeah, I'm best known. I was very fortunate to be involved in British touring cars during a period when we were basically household names in this country.
Yes.
Because there were only three major television channels, BBC One, BBC2, ITV. We were on BBC One Grandstand.
Yes, that's right.
Live on a Sunday afternoon with Murray Walker commentating, introductions by Steve Ryder, all the big names in touring cars, plus some of the Formula One stars like Nigel Mansell, Derek Warwick, Tarquini. That gave me profile. But actually my background is sports car racing. Yeah. What kicked my career off in professional motorsport was finishing on the podium with Tiff Needell and David Sears at Le Mans in a Porsche 962. And so I did sports cars before I raced touring cars. And then I went to touring cars later in life after having won the Japanese Formula 3 championship against Jacques Villeneuve, finished second, Tom Christensen, Rickard Rydell, plus all the big names in Japanese Formula 3. So
they were great days for Anthony Reid.
A circuitous route, but I made it into touring cars. Yeah,
that means if you get if you get older, the cars go smaller. It's like ball games for the kids. It's sort of first they play football, and then they play basketball, and they play all sorts of things, and then later you play tennis, and then later you play golf. That obviously is the same thing. As you go older, the balls get smaller.
Manuele, you went to Formula One, which obviously I guess was your big ambition, but it didn't it didn't really work out for you, did it? Tell us.
Yeah, correct. This is actually a message I would like to send to all the junior drivers who wish to drive in Formula One. I was very, very happy to have done my 3 seasons. I had a good chance with Benetton, but quite frankly, if I look back in the bigger and bigger rear view mirror of my life and my career, Formula One really is occupying a very small part of my wonderful memories.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of other interesting racing, and here I'm with Anthony, you know, in touring cars, in sports cars. But unfortunately, for the perception of people, some non-extremely competent racing fans, they divide the drivers into categories. Formula One drivers and non-Formula One drivers, and I can tell you this is a big mistake. There are a lot of drivers who never made to Formula One for several reasons. I can talk about teammates that I had, Tom Christensen, Frank Bila, Roberto Ravaglia. I had teammates who, if they had a chance in Formula One, they would have done wonderfully, but I'm sure none of them would have liked to swap their careers. Unfortunately, in the perception of people, still Formula One, it's far more important. There are drivers who have done some Grand Prix, and I think if you make a real ranking, they're not even in the top 1,000 of the history of motor racing. So please, people, don't think that Formula One is everything. There are categories that give you so much satisfaction. They are as difficult, and what was good in Jochen days and even before, there was this exchange of drivers. So people could see that the Grand Prix driver was going to drive in sports cars or in touring cars, and not really winning with one hand behind the shoulder like people would expect.
Well, we love to see.
But you, of course, you drove in the Formula One at a period where the cars were a bit awkward. They're very spidery cars, very long suspensions and so on. I found them very physically unattractive at the time, and they were dangerous because it was very easily
I found them very beautiful, but you know, it's no, sorry.
Yeah,
I think.
sure.
I think it's easy for us all to be a bit obsessed with Formula One. To be quite frank, I mean, you know, there's so much other great motor racing. I mean, Anthony, do you wake up every day still regretting you didn't become a Formula One driver or not?
Well, on my toilet wall at home, I've got a letter from Eddie Jordan.
Yes, he got an offer.
I put the letter there because it's the one place in my house that people stand still long enough to read a letter like that. So, and it says, we love Anthony Reid. He's a fantastic driver. We'd love him to race for our team, subject to, I think, £2.5 million.
Oh, right, yes.
Well, I had a sponsor teed up to write the cheque, but 2 weeks before I was going to sign the contract, he went bust.
Ah.
And the guy that ended up eventually driving that car later that year was, of course, Michael Schumacher. And the rest is history.
Well, I mean, that's a great story, though, isn't it? I mean,
well,
that's very Formula One, isn't it? You know, $2.5 million, and then they go bust, and this happens all the time.
Yeah, that's how it swayed. But, you know, when you look at the Formula One teams in the early 70s, I mean, they were minuscule. I mean, we had, at 30s, we had 12 mechanics.
Yeah.
I mean, that included engineers.
Yeah.
I mean, John was designing the car, and he was clever with that. Yeah. But, of course, the cars were not built to the standards it perhaps could have been with a little more resources.
It was dangerous, absolutely.
So it was dangerous. Yeah. And you had to know for yourself whether you want to do it or whether you don't want to do it. And if you felt a bit unsafe, there was the door in the back which you could open and walk out. And that you knew you were not committed to eternity, you know, to something you didn't feel was right, and so on. So, you know, I walked out of Team Surtees, which was, in retrospect, a good thing to do. But, of course, I also felt sorry for John because he was struggling very hard, and so on. And, of course, there was a reason. I mean, I never brought any money to any team. And they always wanted me because I was such a good-looking guy. And now they wanted me because I was quick and I was reliable and this and that. Yeah. So that was nice. But, you know, sometimes, you better walk away from it.
Did Emanuele, you of course worked for Briatore at Benetton, didn't you?
In fact, I was the first guy picked up by Briatore, but
Yeah.
also the first guy fired by Briatore. So
Yes.
it
And
was-
not the last, however.
Yeah, he picked up more girls, I believe.
Well, tell us a bit about working for Briatore, because I mean, talk about a larger.
That was, sometimes you talk about sliding doors because, as we said before, I started my career with the aim of getting to Formula One. I've done 3 Formula 3 seasons, Formula 2, 2 Formula 3000 seasons, so quite long, and could never quite get there. Then I went to touring cars, and I did 1 full season of touring cars until Ron Dennis asked me to become a test driver for McLaren. I don't want to. It's a nice story, but it's too long. But this is really sliding door. So I went to Japan to develop the McLaren Honda, which was an incredible experience, also from a technical and a human point of view. And this is another message I want to give to junior drivers, because I was working with Prost and Senna, and quite frankly, this was another dimension of quality. These people, they were not only born with more talent than me, which I thought, okay, you can do anything with that. You can only complain with the upper floor if you want, if you're brave enough. But they were giving so much more. Their work was so intense. Yeah. They were working so much. They were doing things that I could do, but I didn't know I had to do, the intensity, the preparation, the way they motivated people, the way they were involved in all the technical stuff. So I really learned a lot from them. The only thing I could not pick was their talent, but everything else really was a good lesson. So this was a good opportunity because I was driving the best car around, and sometimes in the FOCA test it happened that I was quickest because the car was so good. Briatore stepped into Benetton. There was at that time it was a very English team with Peter Collins and Johnny Herbert. Yeah. He decided to show how big his how do you say in English the thing you have between your legs?
I think we get the idea, man.
Yes. Yes. So he decided to fire immediately Johnny with the excuse of his legs problems. That's and right. I felt very sorry because Johnny not only is a great driver, but he's a good guy. And he wanted to put somebody else, and I was there, and he called me. So this was a really, really good opportunity. But then his plans were really to make the team bigger and bigger, and Nelson Piquet was his target for the following season. Before this interview, we were talking about it, and you asked if I was bitter about it. No, the only thing is, as usual, I found out that they hired Piquet from the press, and this is this was not nice. But I think you have to do this. This is part of life. No regrets, no bitterness. Sure. It has been good. I worked with Rory Byrne, which was an incredible experience. He was kind enough, and I stopped. Because he said once in a book that this was one of the worst cars that he designed, and he was sorry for me, which is not true. The car was very good, so he was just a very nice guy.
Good, okay. Anthony, tell us a bit about you going to Japan. You were a young man. I mean, and people in those days, a lot of you guys went to Japan, didn't you, to do Formula 3 or Formula 3000 after that. What was it? I mean, to suddenly be living in a completely different culture, but it was the place to be for a while, wasn't it?
On the back of the success of finishing, it was 1990, in a Porsche 962, finishing third on the podium at Le Mans was just immense, because I mean the fastest car I'd driven up to that point was a Formula 3 car.
Yes.
And suddenly here you're doing over 200 miles an hour, 220. But it was such a fabulous car to drive. Tiff Needell gave me that opportunity because they were short of a driver. And he phoned me up and said, "Are you available?" I said, "Hell yes, I'll be there." So
what was the first lap like in the 962 after?
Well, it was pretty horrifying because I came down the back straight, and there'd been a problem with the rear suspension on the Porsche 962s during qualifying, and Jonathan Palmer's rear suspension had collapsed at over 200 miles an hour. And literally, I came across what looked like an aircraft accident. The car had taken off and gone into the trees, and there was a debris field strewn for about 400 meters down the track. And that was my first experience. It was a real assault on the senses. So
I find this extremely discouraging.
Yes,
but I'm a bit of a crazy Scotsman, so I soldiered on. But that opportunity, because the car was owned by a Japanese company, they immediately invited me over to race in Japan. On reflection, looking back during that period, I then went on to race in Japan for 6 years. If you look at the mix of drivers that were over there at that time, the community of drivers, you know, Roland Ratzenberger, Eddie Irvine, Michael Schumacher raced a few times, Ralf Schumacher raced in GT, Villeneuve, Tom Christensen, and the list goes on and on, Johnny Herbert. And a lot of these guys ended up racing in Formula One. Up until that point, Japan had been considered something of a backwater for sort of washed-up racing drivers. But what people didn't realize was that we all got paid, and got paid really well. This is a sort of different concept from racing in Europe. And but what we did, what happened was Adam Cooper was trying to sort of get established with Autosport. And somehow he was persuaded to come over and live for a couple of years in Japan, but report directly back to Autosport. And I think that had a huge influence, because suddenly all these washed-up racing drivers, inverted commas, were getting a lot of publicity back home, and a lot of them, as you now know, ended up in Formula One.
But I think, you know, the Japanese series was very competitive and had lovely circuits. And if you were good there, and it was very competitive too, because the Japanese drivers over there were very good. The few who made it over here in Formula One never had the material to prove what they were really worth, and so on. So plus they had to learn everything here again, because they raced mainly, you know, in the Far East. And so it's, I think it was always a very attractive and very competitive series. So it was not, to me, I never looked at it as sort of looking at a bunch of washed up Europeans who couldn't make it over here because of whatever reason. Not at all. I think it was a very sensible, especially also with the payment, was a very sensible venue to do that. And I think it was very smart of you to do it. It's great.
For the sake of precision, I found this tweet. So the driver was David Coulthard, and he wrote, "I respect 24-hour racing, but truth among drivers is not the same or burst as and commitment of a sprint style Formula One." And Andrew Lotterer replies, "You're right, not the same. We sprint and commit during 24 hours. Isn't Lewis just cruising for 1.5 hours?" So I found this really, really quite cool.
I think we really need to have Nico Hülkenberg here, don't we? Anyway, we haven't. Perhaps we will later in the year. Let's talk a bit more about the members' meeting, which we're less than 2 weeks away from our third members' meeting. And you, Jochen, have got rather a special thing going on, actually, because thanks to IWC, the Swiss watch company, you are driving a Mercedes-Benz Silver Arrows yes, thank you very much, W196, and so is Mika Hakkinen. This is going to be a fantastic sight, and what a privilege.
Well, it's a wonderful car. It's one of, you know, it was after the war, when these cars were built in the 50s and 54, 55. And I thought as a kid, they were beautiful cars, beautiful Formula One cars to look at. And they were very competitive, and they were very clever. They were beautifully built and so on. So to drive them now, it's every time I do that, it's a real joy. And, you know, if Mika can drive it, he's done it quite often and so on. So I'm looking forward to do that, especially on the beautiful circuits like Goodwood. It's fantastic. It's really, you know, I mean, we don't trash it around, but you can go quick with it, no problem, because it's very manageable. You know, the control of this car is not extremely easy, but nevertheless, it's a very docile car. There's nothing vicious about it anywhere. And the brakes are good. It handles well. So wonderful to drive. I look forward to do that.
They still look and sound fantastic, don't they? And the thing is, the thing that it's so easy to forget is no seat belts, huge
Yeah.
power. I mean, these were quick cars.
There was a funny example, when we raced in the 90s, actually, we had some Mercs always, before the Grand Prix, driving some demo laps, about 5, 6, 7 laps, depending on the track. And I was driving this 196 in Monza, and I had to run from the commentary booth because I was still doing the RTL commentary. I had to run over, and it was on the other side of the circuit. There was a small gate, and opposite the pits. And I said, "Where's my helmet?" Of course, there was. Oh, where is a helmet? I didn't have mine anyway, so there wasn't a helmet. So I put on some funny goggles, and actually it was just some sunshades. Really, it was sort of a gloss in the back to tie up, so you could. Anyway, and then I was sitting in there with my jacket and the tie.
Fantastic.
And then I was doing 6 laps flat out. It was really hilarious, and it was so nice because as you came down, towards the Lesmos.
Yeah.
And, the Campari chicane was there already, I think. Can't remember exactly. Anyway, but then into the Lesmo, and it was silent, except for the noise I made. And there were people sitting on this sort of beautiful tribunes there in the corner. And the light came through the trees.
Wonderful.
And I was sliding through the first and then sliding through the second, the exit of the Lesmo. And I thought, this stillness and this sort of feeling of peace.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was accentuating, this whole experience. It was beautiful, beautiful. And everybody was lining the pit wall. I thought, who is this fool without a helmet who is going flat out past it? That was me. And no, but it was, to drive these cars, there was always something. The W125 when we had it here.
Yeah.
And
love the
the
noise.
25, And these cars were, the 196 says what? A straight 8, desmodromic valve drive. Fabulous motor.
Yeah. Manuele, many of us are looking forward to seeing you sharing a BMW with Gerhard Berger. And this takes us back many, many years, of course, to when you and Gerhard raced touring cars at BMW.
Me too. I look forward to it. Gerhard is a good old friend. We started Formula 3 together, and we did a couple of seasons with a beautiful 635. You remember this car? The works cars were painted like an X-ray, all hand painted. With you could see the spring suspension and everything. Beautiful days, and just last Christmas we had a dinner together, and I'm personally very happy that Gerhard more and more is looking into historic racing, because this is a passion that I really have. So he came to Goodwood. Initially was a little bit reluctant, but now more and more he really likes it's like in life sometimes. Some people like me, your windscreen is maybe shrinking, but your rear view mirror is getting bigger and bigger. So looking back, it gives you a lot of pleasure. And then we thought, we told each other we should do something together. We should do something together, because in those days, and I think Jochen can confirm this, racing was also a lot of fun, apart from being a great privilege and a great pleasure. And especially that team with Dieter Quester, with Roberto Ravaglia and Gerhard, that was a lot of fun. So we should do something together. And the idea came because I was asked to drive the car I drove last year, the 530 BMW UFO, and then I asked Goodwood, can you maybe ask Gerhard if the owner, if he wants to invite Gerhard as well? And the idea was welcomed by everybody, so I'm really, really looking forward to it.
The big question is, who's going to be quicker, Pirro or Berger? Well, we'll find out.
Forget about that.
Anthony, you're a great historic racer, so we love you at Goodwood, of course. It's a sort of second career, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought all those years ago that you'd be as busy as you are now, racing these incredible historic cars? It's great fun, isn't it? But you're very competitive, of course.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I started out life racing cars that were on cross-ply tyres, which were Formula Fords, and of course they move around a lot. And then my professional career was sort of racing on Michelin radial tyres.
Sure.
But so getting that opportunity to come back and race some of the classics on those skinny sort of CR65 tyres is just great fun. I've driven some amazing cars. classic historic cars. One of the highlights would be racing the Mike Hawthorne D-type Jaguar that won the 55 Le Mans at Le Mans just a few years ago. Who would have thought that? That's, I mean, apart from being an incredible bit of history, what a beautiful car too.
But bearing in mind what a competitive person you are, you're sitting in millions and millions of pounds worth of motor car.
Yeah, I mean, it's just coincided with the way classic and historic racing has developed, and it's a lot of it is down to events like this. You know, the Goodwood events, the members meeting, the revival, the Festival of Speed, Le Mans Classic, Silverstone Classic, and that has sort of created a boom in the classics and historics.
Very much so.
But of course, when you come to these big events, you're playing on the big roulette table. So there are certain risks, and you are driving very expensive cars, and sometimes they get damaged, but they can always be fixed. But you never go out with the intention, not like we did in British touring cars. You're not trying to bump people off, but inevitably, when you're traveling in very close company with other cars, sometimes there's a little bit of touching, but it's not intentional.
What are you racing? What are you racing at the 74th members meeting?
Well, it's kind of nice because my sort of best known part of my career is driving tin tops. Before I got into saloon car racing, I used to hang out with Jerry Marshall. And of course, he was an absolute legend.
Yes.
Great guy. He was kind of a mentor to me, advised me, but also loved to show me how to drive a car really quick. So he'd say, jump into the passenger seat of a BMW. And he drifted around Donington or Silverstone at top speed without crash helmets on or anything. And so to actually get to drive one of his old cars, a Triumph Dolomite Sprint, in the Jerry Marshall race is just kind of history coming full circle.
Brilliant.
I only remember the Triumph Dolomite Sprints because the police had them. And they chased me once from Exeter to London. And I do remember that very vividly.
Okay, fantastic stuff. So, apart from driving this beautiful Mercedes-Benz, are you out there to score points for your house as well? I hope you are. Well, I know you are, actually, so tell us what else you're up to.
Yeah, let's see what they put me into this time, because I drove a few times a feeble BMW, a smaller one, a 202.
Did you
was
say
a nice
a
car,
feeble
but it was
BMW?
feeble, it was not very powerful. Okay. But it was a nice car. It had Warsteiner colors on it, but the beer was better than actually the car. So I don't know what I'm driving now. Maybe a 300 SL.
Ah, yes.
You know, the old Gullwing from Hans Kleisel, HK Engineering, who I drove a few times here, and the car is very good. Yeah. Really nice. But, you know, I'm not overly competitive when it comes to that. Of course, I would like to do as good as I can. But what the car allows you, and I think we should enjoy it more than being too hell-bent on winning. You know, winning is always great, obviously. And you can win easily if the car is up to it.
You should tell this to Anthony Reid.
Yeah, but he always drives cars which are very, very good.
Oh, right.
So very powerful. No, I mean, look, we all know how to drive cars and so on, of course, you know, and Anthony is a brilliant driver with these machines, so that's wonderful, and so on. So my ambitions, if we would have all the same cars, then it would be fun, because then you look at each other and you dice around and all that. But since we have a bit of a gap between the performance of the individual machines, so it's it will not be such a fierce competition between us as drivers.
We should, before we go, Emanuele, we should just mention the absolute highlight of your career. People think it's winning Le Mans in a diesel-powered Audi, but it wasn't. It was winning the Tourist Trophy at Goodwood, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Am I right? I mean, I know you were the first man to win Le Mans in a diesel. But
in fact, if I had some money, I would really like to own this 4WPD Jaguar.
I bet you would.
Because somehow I feel it's a little bit mine, this car. But no, talking about competition, I think the way we come here, I'm not sure about Anthony, actually. I can't guarantee.
None of us are, Emanuele.
But it's at least the way I see it is the pleasure of driving well more than driving as fast as possible. Honestly, as Jochen said, winning here doesn't mean much because you really drive different cars. So if you win, you don't really prove that you are the best driver, and this is not what is about this event. We all drive different cars, so wherever you're placed in the ranking doesn't really matter. The way I see it is, with myself, I would like to drive as well as possible, you know, to use the car properly in respect of the car. And when I do that, sometimes I sat in a winning car and I won. Sometimes I sat in a car which was not capable and I was wherever in there. But still, when I feel happy with myself, I enjoy it. Good. This is the way I see it.
Well, anyway, I tell you
the Roman approach.
The Roman approach, yes. Okay. The main thing is to have fun, and even more important is to entertain the crowd. And my goodness me, all of you guys do that. I mean, that's the best thing about it. The crowd just love to see you guys out there. A bit of opposite lock, a bit of waving. You know, like racing used to be. It was kind of communicating with the people who love it.
A bit of opposite lock, we call it understeer here, because the standard is a lot of opposite lock. Right. So if it's only a little bit of opposite lock, we call it understeer in historical perspective. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
No, I mean, like Emanuele and Anthony said already, it's a family weekend.
Sure.
And the man always wants to prove that to his family already that he would have been a decent Schumacher had he started earlier and this sort of thing. But you know, it's something I shy away from. I think we should really enjoy it, and they do, and I think that's wonderful. And that makes this, I mean, the members meeting, and of course also the revival, which is very competitive, by the way. But it makes it fantastic for everybody involved. Yeah. I spoke to a lot of drivers, and they said, "We know we can't win, but we have fun. We really like it." And I spoke to some friends who had accidents here, and they said, "Oh, this is dangerous." I said, "Don't do it. Walk away from it. You don't have to do it. It's your own choice. I mean, if you feel it's too dangerous, don't even think about it."
Motor racing used to be extremely dangerous, as we all know. Can I just ask all of you, before we go, a quick question about head protection in modern Formula One? Because it's quite if in 2017 we have the canopy. Just quickly, all of you, what do you feel about this? Emanuele?
I'm not 100% sure it's the right way to go, because sometimes getting out of the car quickly is also something important. I don't have a very strong opinion. I would like to wait and see. All I can say is that now more and more I'm in FIA with different things, and I know there's a lot of competent people who are studying and coming up with good ideas. So if they think it's appropriate, it might work.
The reason I ask is it's a big talking point among fans at the moment. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's I am against sort of this overreaching safety which covers everything. It never works. So there is a good chance. I mean, we had this cars built already with these sort of suspension fail-safe systems where they, if they broke, they wouldn't get detached from the car. So we don't have that anymore, it seems, because very often you see a car bouncing off. I mean, a wheel bouncing off a car, and so on. So I think we should emphasize more on that again, instead of making these cars more and more like spaceships, you know, where you are very much protected inside and outside. I mean, the guys who drive them now, they take risks, surely, but they take minimal risk compared to our earlier days.
There's a quote of Sterling Moss which is great. Sometimes I asked him what is the difference between now and yesterday, and he said, I think the difficulties is the same. It's like walking on a rope. Just the difference is that in my time the rope was over the Grand Canyon, and now the rope is over a nice mattress 1 meter below you. And I think this is quite a good statement.
You're a canyon man, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, what got me excited about motor racing in the first instance was watching Formula One during the early 1970s. Simon Taylor and on the television. Sure. These great cars, open cockpits, and most of all the noise was one of the most exciting elements.
What's your feeling
we're missing the noise these days, and also the sport is incredibly safe. But when you're doing 200 miles an hour, inevitably, in a freak situation, somebody can get injured.
Do you want to see
Whatever.
Do you want to see the head protection?
I wouldn't like to see that personally. No.
No, I think it could be ugly. Anyway, let's see. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, we had some incidents with wheels hitting drivers. We had that with the last one with Henry, John Surtees' son,
good.
which was very tragic. We had it in Hockenheim with Oettinger,
Yeah.
you know, the Austrian driver. And it happened more often. And Warwick, I think, was also one of them, the brother, wasn't he?
Justin Wilson.
Yeah. And so there is something to be said about it. But I think to attach the wheels better to the cars, which we did at some stage, I think we should really emphasize.
It's happening now. There
happening
is
again.
a tether. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a tether.
It should
They
have
are
never
tethered.
been changed because
Okay.
we were on a good road. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. But all of you have been on the podium at Le Mans at least once. So that's a great little group. And you're all our Goodwood house captains. So I hope you have a wonderful members meeting. And Emanuele and Jochen, do please try and beat him, will you? We cannot have a hat trick. I'm sorry.
I would love to say this racing is not about winning, but I can't lie. I can't lie.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't want to see some long faces on Sunday evening.
Right. Well, as I said at the top of the show, this is our first ever Goodwood Road and Racing website podcast, and we're going to be doing at least one a month for the rest of this year. So I do hope you will join us. And let me just tell you that our next one will feature Mika Hakkinen and, sorry about this, Jochen Mass, and it will feature Gerhard Berger and Emanuele Pirro, because we're going to be talking to them at the members meeting, and you will see that on the Goodwood Road and Racing website after the members meeting, and that should be good. So please join us again here at the Goodwood Road and Racing website. Tell your friends, talk to us online, talk to us on social media, tell us what you think, tell us who you'd like to see on the show, and thank you very much for tuning in today. We got lots of great names to come, so we'll see you soon. Have a wonderful members meeting. I should tell you, by the way, that it is sold out to non-members already, but there are still a limited number of tickets available for members. See you all there. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.